The white lights of the medical room hurt Sophie's eyes. She sat on the cold metal table and kicked her legs back and forth. She had been waiting for 3 hours. The alien doctor named Kelvin kept looking at his computer screen and making worried sounds. Sophie was a human soldier in the Space Navy. She was 28 years old with red hair tied back in a tight bunch. Her gray uniform had the Earth symbol on it. She was getting tired of sitting here. "How much longer, Doc?" Sophie asked. Her voice showed she was bored and angry at the same time. Dr. Kelvin had 3 eyes on long stalks. He was from a planet called Zephyros. His words came out through a small computer chip that changed his alien sounds into words Sophie could understand. "Your test results are very strange, Commander. I need to check your blood more carefully." Sophie looked confused. "Strange how?" "I passed my last health check 2 months ago. Everything was fine." The doctor's 3 eyes twisted around. "That is the problem, Commander. According to our medical rules, you should not have passed. In fact, you should not be alive right now." Before Sophie could say anything, the door opened. Captain Gregg walked in. He was 53 years old with gray hair mixed into his black hair. He had been a soldier for 30 years. His face looked tired from too much work and not enough sleep. "Commander Sophie, what is going on?" "I just got a message saying you have been locked in this room for safety reasons." Sophie jumped off the table. "Locked in? Doc, I feel completely fine. Better than fine, actually." Dr. Kelvin touched his computer screen and pictures appeared in the air. They showed tiny pieces of cells and strange shapes. "Captain Gregg, I need you to take a health test too. In fact, I want all humans on this space station to get tested right away." Gregg's face became hard and serious. "Explain." "Now." The alien doctor's 3 eyes all stared at the 2 humans. "Commander Sophie's cells do not follow any rules of science that we know. Her body fixes damaged cells faster than should be possible. Her body is making weapons to fight diseases that do not even exist in this part of space. Most scary of all, her blood has pieces of heavy metal in it. These metals should kill every space-traveling species we know. But in her body, they seem to belong there like they are supposed to be there." Sophie and Gregg looked at each other. "Doc," Sophie said slowly, "are you saying I am not human?" "No," Dr. Kelvin replied. His computer made his words sound heavy and serious. "I am saying you are too human. According to my tests, you should have died from space radiation 17 times during your last mission. You have tiny plastic pieces in your blood that would make any other species' organs stop working. The bacteria in your stomach make waste that is so poisonous we would call it a chemical weapon. And yet you stand here in perfect health." The room became very quiet. Only the soft hum of machines could be heard. Gregg spoke first. "How long have humans been members of the Space Alliance?" 47 years, Sophie answered without thinking. "And in all that time," Gregg continued, turning to Dr. Kelvin, "has any alien scientist actually done a full study of how human bodies work?" Dr. Kelvin's eye stalks drooped down. "I am checking the medical computer right now. There are very few detailed studies. Most studies only check if humans can use standard equipment and breathe the same air. It looks like when humans first joined the Space Alliance, they passed basic health tests and were allowed to work. Nobody asked questions about how those results happened." Sophie sat back down on the table. A strange look came over her face. "So what you are saying is that nobody actually knows how humans work?" "It seems that way," Dr. Kelvin admitted. "And now that I am looking closely, I am finding that humans should not be able to do most of what they do." "Commander, can I ask you a personal question?" "Go ahead. How much water do you drink every day?" Sophie lifted her shoulders up and down. "I do not know." "Maybe 2 bottles? Why?" "Because water is one of the most dangerous substances in the galaxy for living things. Most species can only handle it in very small amounts. You are telling me that you drink amounts that would make a Zephyrian's cells explode, and you do it every day like it is nothing." Gregg let out a long breath. "Doc, I think you better test all of us, and I think you should get ready for your computers to crash again, because I have a feeling that what you find is going to break every rule in your medical books." Sophie stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see the stars. Earth was somewhere out there, millions of miles away. She had grown up on that blue and green planet. She had drunk its water, breathed its air, eaten its food. She had never thought of any of it as special or strange. "Doc, how dangerous is Earth compared to other planets?" Dr. Kelvin pulled up another screen. It showed Earth spinning in space. Earth is rated as a Class 7 death world. That is the highest danger rating that allows life to exist. Most planets where intelligent species come from are rated Class 2 or 3. They are safe, stable, with gentle weather and few dangers. And Earth? Greg asked. Earth has survived 5 complete wipeouts of almost all life. Giant rocks from space hitting the planet, supervolcanoes that covered the sky in ash, ice ages that froze most of the water. Each time, life almost ended. But each time it came back, stronger, tougher, better at surviving. Sophie turned back from the window. So humans come from a planet that keeps trying to kill everything on it? In simple terms, yes. Dr. Kelvin's 3 eyes focused on her. Your planet has massive storms that can destroy cities. It has areas so hot that water boils and areas so cold that air turns to liquid. It has earthquakes that split the ground open and waves as tall as buildings. By our standards, Earth should be empty of life. Instead, it is covered in millions of different species, all fighting to survive. Greg walked over to stand beside Sophie. That is why our bodies are so strange to you, Doc. We did not evolve on a nice, safe planet. We evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill us every single day. The humans who could not handle the poison, the radiation, the diseases, the predators, they died. The ones who could survive, they had children. And those children inherited the ability to survive. For 4 billion years, Sophie added quietly. 4 billion years of our planet testing us, pushing us, trying to make us extinct. And we refused to die. Dr. Kelvin was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I need to run more tests. Many more tests. Because if what you are saying is true, then humans are not just another species in the Space Alliance. You are survivors of conditions that would have ended any other civilization before it could even begin. Sophie smiled. It was not a happy smile or a mean smile. It was the smile of someone who just understood something important about themselves. Welcome to humanity, Doc. We are what happens when a planet tries really hard to kill everything living on it, and life says no. Greg nodded. Run your tests, Doctor. Check our blood, our cells, our everything. You are going to find that every part of a human body is built to survive things that should kill us. Because that is what we do. We survive. It is not magic. It is not special powers. It is just 4 billion years of refusing to give up no matter what. Dr. Kelvin's computer made a sound like a sigh. I will begin the full testing tomorrow. For now, Commander Sophie, you are free to go. But I must warn you, when these test results become known, it will change how the entire galaxy sees humanity. Sophie and Greg walked toward the door. Before they left, Sophie turned back. One more question, Doc. All those other species on safe planets, what happens to them when something really bad happens? When they face a crisis they have never seen before? Dr. Kelvin's 3 eyes met hers. They struggle. They need time to adapt. They need help. Sophie nodded. That is the difference then. Humans have been facing crises we have never seen before since the day life started on Earth. We do not need time to adapt. We just do it. We do not wait for help. We figure it out ourselves, because we have had 4 billion years of practice. As they walked out of the medical room, Greg spoke quietly. This is going to get complicated, Commander. Sophie looked at the stars through the station windows. Complicated is what humans are good at, Captain. Bring it on. The science lab had changed completely. Now it looked like a war room. Pictures made of light floated everywhere in the room. Each picture showed different parts of human bodies that made the alien scientists confused and worried. Dr. Kelvin stood in the middle of everything. His 3 eyes moved in different directions as he tried to watch 17 computer screens at once. A human scientist named Lillian was helping him. She was 35 years old and had been studying alien life for 15 years. But now she had to study her own species, which felt very strange. She stood next to Dr. Kelvin and looked at the screens with surprise and fear on her face. This cannot be right, Lillian said quietly. She was looking at a picture of human blood cells. The iron in our blood alone should damage our cells, but instead we use it to carry oxygen through our entire body. Captain Greg stood to the side with his arms crossed. He watched the scientists work. Sophie was back on the examination table. This time, 12 other human crew members were with her. They had all agreed to be tested. Everyone in the room felt curious and worried at the same time. Another alien scientist entered the lab. His name was Crix. He looked like a giant bug with hard-shell skin. He was carrying a computer pad that was flashing red warning lights. Dr. Kelvin, we have a problem. The genetic testing computer has crashed again. That is the 4th time today. What is causing it to crash? Dr. Kelvin asked. Crix's bug mouth parts clicked together. The computer keeps finding genetic codes that it says should not work with smart life. Every time it tries to read a complete human gene sequence, it marks problems with the Space Alliance biology rules. The computer programs are treating human DNA like it is broken or damaged. Dr. Lillian looked up from her work. A strange smile appeared on her face. Of course it is, because by Space Alliance rules we are damaged. We are broken. We are survivors of a death world that should have killed us millions of years ago. The room became completely silent. Dr. Kelvin slowly turned all three eyes toward Lillian. Explain. Lillian made a new picture appear in the air. It showed Earth spinning in space. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from far away. Earth is called a Class 7 death world by Space Alliance rules. That is the highest danger rating that allows complicated life to exist. Our planet has survived 5 times when almost everything died. Giant space rocks hitting us, huge volcanoes erupting, ice ages. Each time life was almost completely wiped out. Each time it came back stronger, meaner, and better at adapting. She made the picture bigger to show Earth's moon. Do you know what made our moon? A planet-sized object crashed into Earth 4 billion years ago. The crash should have killed everything. Instead, the debris turned into the moon, which made our planet stable enough for complicated life to grow. We literally started our existence with a cosmic disaster that would have ended any other species before it began. Sophie leaned forward. She was very interested now. So what you are saying is that humans grew up under conditions that would be considered impossible to live in by Space Alliance rules. Not just impossible to live in, Lillian continued. She was getting excited now. Actively hostile. Earth has a powerful magnetic field that channels deadly radiation from the sun to our poles, creating beautiful light shows. Most species would think that is a planetary defense gone wrong. We call it the Northern Lights and write poems about it. Our air has 21% oxygen, which is high enough to start fires naturally and create massive forest fires. We have weather that can make tornadoes strong enough to lift buildings, hurricanes that cover hundreds of miles, and temperatures that swing from -50 to +50 degrees depending on season and place. Dr. Kelvin was quickly pulling up Space Alliance planet information. This is correct. Earth scores dangerously high on almost every environmental danger measurement. Yet you call it home. We call it home because we did not have a choice, Greg said. Our ancestors adapted or they died. Those who survived passed on their genes. Those genes carried the scars of every disaster, every disease, every predator that tried to wipe us out. Lillian nodded with excitement. Exactly. And that is why our biology breaks your computers, Dr. Kelvin. You are trying to study us using rules designed for species that grew up on stable, predictable worlds, garden worlds with mild weather, steady food sources, and environments that did not actively try to kill everything that lived on them. Humans grew up on a world where nothing was stable, nothing was safe, and adapting was not optional. She made a new picture appear showing human cells. Look at our mitochondria. These are the power plants inside our cells. They are not even originally part of our cells. They are ancient bacteria that got absorbed billions of years ago in what might have been the most successful hostile takeover in the history of life. We run on a hybrid power system put together from completely different life forms, and it works because we had no choice but to make it work. Crix was writing notes very fast. This explains the contradictory readings. The human genetic code contains sequences from multiple extinction-level survival situations. Your immune system has backup systems on top of backup systems, because it evolved to handle threats that no longer exist but might return. Your stress response system is set up for environments where being eaten by a predator was a daily possibility. And our ability to heal, Sophie added. Understanding was coming to her now. You said my DNA repair systems were impossibly fast. That is because humans who could not heal quickly from injuries did not survive to have children. We are literally built from the blueprints of survivors. Dr. Kelvin was silent for a long moment. He was thinking hard about all this information. When he finally spoke, his computer made his words sound almost religious. You are saying that humans are not merely able to live in harsh environments. You are a species engineered by 4 billion years of disaster. You were forged in conditions that would destroy most life in the galaxy. The toxins in your blood, the aggressive immune responses, the backup systems, they are not flaws. They are features. You are walking, talking proof that life can adapt to anything if given enough time and enough reason to fight. Greg smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Welcome to humanity, Doc. We are what happens when a planet tries its absolute hardest to kill every living thing on it, and life refuses to die. Lillian pulled up more pictures. Look at this. Human stomach acid has a pH between 1.5 and 3.5. That is strong enough to melt some metals. Yet we carry it in our bodies every day without problems. Why? Because we evolved as creatures who ate almost anything. Spoiled meat, tough plant matter, foods that would poison other species. We developed the ability to process it all because being picky about food was a luxury our ancestors could not afford. A bird-like alien scientist raised one of her 4 hands. But Dr. Lillian, surely this makes humans weak? Carrying such dangerous substances inside your body must require constant cell repair? Lillian smiled widely. That is the beautiful part. The lining of our stomach completely rebuilds itself every 3 to 5 days. We are constantly rebuilding ourselves at the cell level, replacing damaged tissue faster than it can be destroyed. And that is just one example. Human skin cells rebuild every 2 to 3 weeks. Our liver can rebuild itself from as little as 25% of its original size. We are basically biological machines designed for damage control and rapid repair. Sophie stood up and walked to the center of the lab. So what you are telling me is that every single part of a human body is designed to take damage and keep working. Not just keep working, Lillian replied. Get stronger from it. Every time a human gets sick and recovers, their immune system learns. Every time a bone breaks and heals, it grows back slightly stronger. Every time we face stress, our bodies adapt to handle more stress in the future. We do not just survive problems. We learn from them and become better at surviving the next problem. Dr. Kelvin's 3 eyes were all focused on the humans in the room now. This is both fascinating and concerning. Fascinating because it shows what life is truly capable of when pushed to its limits. Concerning because it means humans have capabilities that other species in the Space Alliance do not have and cannot easily develop. Greg walked over to the doctor. We are not trying to be better than anyone else, Doc. We are just trying to live. This is normal for us. This is what human normal looks like. Crix looked up from his notes. But that is exactly the issue, Captain. What is normal for humans is extraordinary for everyone else. You drink water in amounts that would kill me. You breathe oxygen concentrations that would be toxic to half the species in this station. You eat foods that contain bacteria and toxins that we would consider bioweapons. And you do it all without thinking about it because to you it is just normal daily life. The door to the lab suddenly opened. A tall alien with scales like polished metal entered. This was Admiral Vorath. He was a very high-ranking military officer. He had lived for 300 years and his yellow eyes looked very serious. Captain Gregg, Dr. Kelvin, I have been reviewing your reports. I need to speak with you both immediately. They moved to a private room off the main lab. Admiral Vorath looked at them both seriously. This discovery has reached the highest levels of Space Alliance command. There are Khan. The alarms were loud and scary. Red lights flashed on every wall. Crix ran to a computer and started pressing buttons very fast. His bug hands moved quickly over the controls. What is happening? Sophie shouted over the noise of the alarms. Emergency signal from the mining colony on planet Xerxes 4. They are reporting a complete biological containment failure. An unknown disease has infected the entire population. Death estimates are very high. Admiral Vorath's face became very serious. How many species are living in that colony? 12, Crix reported, including 17 humans. Dr. Kelvin turned to look at Sophie, then at Greg, then at all the human crew members in the room. Captain Gregg, I believe we are about to discover just how effective the human immune system truly is. 20 minutes later, they were all on a rescue ship heading toward Xerxes 4. The ship moved through space faster than light could travel. On the bridge, Captain Gregg stood beside Admiral Vorath. They watched the colony's emergency messages paint a horrible picture on the computer screens. The colony was home to 4,000 people from 12 different species. They all worked together to dig rare minerals from the planet's dangerous ground. It had been a good example of different peoples working together. Now it was becoming a place where everyone was dying. Final death count is at 93%, the communications officer reported. Her bug mouth parts clicked with distress. All Zephyrian people are dead. The Draconis population has been reduced to 2 individuals who are dying. The Crystal people report complete collapse of their bodies. The bird people, the bug people, all other species showing similar terrible infection rates. And the humans, Greg asked. though he already thought he knew the answer. The communications officer's antennas twitched. All 17 human colonists are alive and actively helping survivors. They report feeling mild flu-like symptoms about 6 hours after first exposure, then complete recovery within 18 hours. The bridge became completely silent. Commander Sophie had insisted on coming on this rescue mission. She let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. 18 hours. We shrugged off a plague that is killing everyone else in less than a day. Dr. Kelvin was looking at computer screens showing real-time biological data from the colony. This disease is unlike anything in the Space Alliance computer. It attacks cell structures at the molecular level. It basically melts the bonds that hold complicated organisms together. By all rights, it should have killed the humans just as efficiently as it killed everyone else. But it did not, Dr. Lillian said. She had also insisted on coming on this mission. She knew this crisis might give important information about human biology. Our immune system saw it as a threat and fought back. The fever spike reported by the colonists was their bodies raising their temperature to create an environment hostile to the disease. The rapid production of antibodies was their immune systems learning to target and destroy the invader. It is a normal immune response just happening on a timescale that seems impossible by Space Alliance standards. Admiral Vorath studied the data with his very focused attention. Dr. Lillian, are you saying that humans are immune to this disease? Not immune, Lillian corrected. Immune means we cannot be infected. We were infected. The disease entered our cells and began its destructive process. But our bodies fought back and won. There is a big difference. If humans were immune, our biology would have simply rejected the disease. Instead, we adapted to it, beat it, and now carry antibodies that could potentially be used to create a treatment for other species. The meaning of that statement spread through the bridge crew. You are saying humans could be the cure, Sophie said slowly. Dr. Kelvin's eye stalk straightened with sudden understanding. Of course. The aggressive immune response that makes human biology so confusing to study is exactly what makes them able to fight off this disease. They do not just resist disease. They learn from it. Every infection, every disease they meet becomes part of their biological database, training their immune systems to respond more effectively to future threats. Captain Gregg, Admiral Vorath said, his tone changing from academic interest to command authority. I am approving an immediate landing. We need to get Dr. Kelvin and Dr. Lillian to those human colonists. If there is any chance we can make a treatment from their antibodies, we may be able to save the remaining survivors. Understood, Admiral. Commander Sophie, put together a medical team. Include all human people who are willing to volunteer. Sophie was already moving toward the door. I will have them ready in 10 minutes, sir. The landing team touched down on Xerxes 4, 37 minutes later. The colony's main building showed signs of the chaos that had hit it. Medical supplies were scattered everywhere. Emergency lights were flashing. The air smelled sharp from chemicals that were trying but failing to fight the disease. They were met by a human named Jacob. He was the highest-ranking human among the colonists. He was a mining engineer, but the crisis had turned him into something closer to a battlefield doctor. His face showed how tired he was, but his eyes were sharp and focused. Captain Gregg, Jacob said. His voice was rough but steady. We have 63 survivors in critical condition. Most are not expected to last another 12 hours. Whatever you are planning, we need it to work fast. Dr. Kelvin immediately began setting up portable medical equipment. Mr. Jacob, I need blood samples from all human colonists immediately. Dr. Lillian, can you walk me through the antibody extraction process? Already on it, Lillian replied. She was pulling up plans on her portable computer. The process is similar to how we make vaccines on Earth. We separate the antibodies from human blood plasma, make them more concentrated, and then put them into the infected individuals. Their immune systems should be able to use our antibodies as a guide to mount their own defense. Sophie was already organizing the human volunteers. She was working with Jacob's group to create an efficient system of blood donations. 17 colonists plus 20 crew members from the rescue ship made 37 humans total. Each one was willing to give blood to save lives. As the medical team worked, Admiral Vorath approached Gregg. Captain, no matter what happens here, This changes everything. The Space Alliance has operated under the assumption that all member species are basically equal in their biological abilities. The events of the past few days have proven that assumption false. Greg watched his crew work alongside the colonists. Humans moved with purpose and determination, born of 4 billion years of survival instinct. What are you saying, Admiral? I'm saying that humanity has been playing by Space Alliance rules without realizing that those rules were never designed for a species like yours. You have been limiting yourselves, trying to fit into a galaxy that was not built to hold Death World survivors. But after today, after this crisis is resolved, the galaxy will know what humans truly are. The question is, Captain Greg, are you ready for what comes next? Greg looked at Sophie, at Jacob, at all the humans working without stopping to save their alien colleagues. Admiral, we have been ready for 4 billion years. We just did not know it yet. The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. Blood was drawn, processed, concentrated, and prepared for injection. Dr. Kelvin and Dr. Lillian worked side by side, alien and human science combining to fight a common enemy. The human-derived antibodies were carefully measured and given to the dying colonists. Sophie found herself sitting next to a young Zephyrian who was barely alive. The alien's 3 eye stalks were limp and lifeless. She watched as Dr. Kelvin carefully injected the antibody treatment. Then there was nothing to do but wait. Will it work? Sophie asked quietly. Dr. Kelvin's 3 eyes met hers. I do not know, Commander. This is new science. We are using human immune responses to teach alien immune systems how to fight. In theory, it should work, but theory and practice do not always agree. Sophie looked down at the dying Zephyrian. Come on. Fight. Use what we gave you and fight. 2 hours later, the young Zephyrian's eye stalks twitched. Then they moved. Then they lifted up and focused on Sophie. The alien was alive. It is working, Sophie called out. Dr. Kelvin, it is working. All around the medical area, similar scenes were playing out. Dying aliens were starting to recover. Their immune systems, guided by human antibodies, were learning to fight the disease. The treatment was not perfect. Some were too far gone to save, but most were responding. Most were going to live. Jacob found Greg standing outside the medical area, looking up at the alien sky. The human colonist stood beside the captain in silence for a moment. We did it, Jacob said finally. We actually did it. Greg nodded. You did it, Jacob. You and your people. You survived a plague that killed almost everyone else. Then you used your survival to save them. That is what it means to be human. Jacob was quiet for a moment. I did not think about it that way. We just did what needed to be done. We got sick, we got better, we helped others. It seemed like the obvious thing to do. That is exactly my point, Greg replied. To you, it was obvious. To every other species in the galaxy, what you did was miraculous. You survived the unsurvivable. Then you turned your survival into salvation for others. That is not normal, Jacob. That is exceptional. That is human. Inside the medical area, Dr. Lillian was explaining the results to A. 3 weeks after the crisis on Xerxes IV, the Space Alliance held an emergency meeting at their main headquarters on the garden world of Sanctuary Prime. The huge meeting hall was filled with representatives from every member species. Their attention was focused on the testimony being given by Dr. Kelvin and Dr. Lillian. The pictures made of light floating throughout the room showed proof that nobody could argue with. Charts showing how the human immune response worked. Comparisons between human biology and Space Alliance standard body science. Time-lapse recordings of human antibodies destroying the Xerxes disease with brutal efficiency. And most dramatically, survival statistics showing that every single individual treated with human-derived antibodies had made a full recovery. Dr. Kelvin stood at the central speaking platform. His 3 eye stalks moved independently as he spoke to the assembled delegates. Honored representatives, what we have discovered about human biology is not merely academically interesting. It represents a basic shift in our understanding of what is possible in biological adaptation. Humans are not simply another member species of the Space Alliance. They are survivors of conditions that would have ended most civilizations before they began. A delegate from the bird people raised one delicate hand. Dr. Kelvin, you paint a picture of humans as exceptionally tough. But does this not raise concerns about biological compatibility? If humans are so different from other species, how can we ensure safe living together? Dr. Lillian stepped forward to address the question. Delegate, the concern is understandable but wrong. Human biology is not incompatible with Space Alliance life. It is simply designed differently. We do not pose a threat to other species through our mere existence. What we do pose is an opportunity. The same immune system that allowed humans to survive the Xerxes disease can be studied, analyzed, and potentially used to develop better medical treatments for all Space Alliance members. Our toughness is not a weapon. It is a resource. In the observation area above the main floor, Captain Gregg sat with Commander Sophie and several other human officers. They watched the proceedings with a mixture of pride and worry. They are talking about us like we are some kind of biological miracle, Sophie said quietly. Gregg smiled slightly. We are, in a way, just not the kind they are thinking of. We are not miraculous because we are special. We are miraculous because we survived when we had no business doing so. Earth kept trying to kill us and we kept refusing to die. That is not divine intervention, Commander. That is pure, stubborn human determination. On the main floor, Admiral Vorath had taken the speaking platform. The aged scale-covered officer commanded instant respect. The hall became silent as he prepared to speak. Honored delegates, I have served the Space Alliance for 3 centuries. In that time, I have witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the formation of new alliances, and the resolution of countless crises. But I have never seen anything quite like what I witnessed at Xerxes 4. He made the central display show footage from the rescue mission. When the disease struck, it did not discriminate. It attacked every species with equal force. Zephyrians with their advanced medical science, Draconis with our legendary constitution, Crystal people with their unique toughness, all fell before this plague. And yet 17 humans, civilians with no specialized medical training, survived. Not only survived, but actively worked to save others even while their own bodies fought the infection. The footage showed Jacob and the other human colonists moving through the habitat building, providing care to the infected, never stopping, never giving up. This, Vorath continued, is what it means to be human. Not superior biology, though that certainly exists. Not advanced technology, though they possess that as well. What defines humanity is an absolute refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. They are a species that evolved in the furnace of catastrophe, and they carry that legacy in every cell of their bodies. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Space Alliance has always valued diversity. We have built our society on the principle that different species bring different strengths to the table, but we have been blind to just how different humans truly are. We welcomed them as equals without understanding that their definition of equal was forged in conditions that would have destroyed any other civilization. A bug-like delegate stood. His hard shell plates rattled. Admiral Vorath, are you proposing we treat humans differently, grant them special status within the Space Alliance? No, Vorath replied firmly. I am proposing we acknowledge what they already are. Humans do not need special treatment. What they need is recognition. Recognition that when we face threats beyond our current abilities, when we encounter environments too hostile for normal biology, when we need someone who simply will not quit no matter how dire the situation becomes, humans are uniquely suited to respond. Not because they are better than us, but because they are different from us in ways that complement our own strengths. Dr. Kelvin stepped forward once more. If I may add, this discovery has deep implications for Space Alliance medical science. Human immune systems operate on principles that we are only beginning to understand. The adaptability they display, the speed of their responses, these are not weird things to be feared. They are things to be studied, understood, and potentially applied to benefit all species. Lillian raised her hand, seeking permission to speak. When it was granted, she addressed the assembly with passion. Delegates, I am a human scientist who studies alien life. I have spent my career studying the diversity of the galaxy, but I never truly understood my own species until I saw it through your eyes. We are not normal by Space Alliance standards. We never have been. But perhaps that is not a problem to be solved. Perhaps that is humanity's gift to the Space Alliance. We are living proof that life can adapt to anything, survive anything, overcome anything if given enough time and motivation. She pulled up one final display, showing Earth rotating in space. This is our homeworld, a Class 7 death world by Space Alliance classification. It has tried to kill us with asteroids, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and predators. And every single time we adapted, we changed, we survived. That is not just our history, delegates. That is our promise to the Space Alliance. No matter what challenges we face together, humans will never stop fighting to survive. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly the crystal delegate began to glow brighter, their species' way of showing approval. It spread through the assembly. Each species expressed approval in their own way. Chirps from the bird people, mandible clicks from the bug people, deep harmonic sounds from the scale people. In the observation area, Sophie turned to Greg with tears in her eyes. "We did it, Captain." "They understand now." Greg nodded, his face thoughtful. "They understand what we are, Commander. But I am not sure they fully grasp what that means yet. We are not just survivors. We are the descendants of every organism that ever refused to go extinct. That is a legacy that does not quit, does not surrender, and does not accept defeat. The Space Alliance is about to learn what it really means to have humans as allies." As the session ended and the delegates began to leave, Dr. Kelvin approached the human observation area. His 3 eye stalks focused on Greg with something that might have been respect. "Captain Greg, I must apologize. When I first examined Commander Sophie, I believed her biology was damaged or corrupted. I understand now that I was looking at it from the wrong view. Humans are not broken versions of normal biology. You are biology that refused to break, no matter what was thrown at it." Greg held out his hand, a gesture that Dr. Kelvin had learned was a sign of respect among humans. The Zephyrian carefully extended one of his limbs, and they shook hands. "No apology needed, Doctor. You just did what any good scientist would do. You looked at the evidence and followed it to the truth, even when that truth challenged everything you thought you knew. That is not weakness. That is wisdom." Dr. Kelvin's computer made a sound that might have been satisfaction. "I suspect this is only the beginning, Captain. Now that we know what to look for, I imagine we will discover many more ways in which human biology breaks normal understanding. The question is, are you prepared for the galaxy to see humans as something more than just another member species?" Greg looked out at the gathered delegates, at the representatives of 100 worlds who were only now beginning to understand what Earth had created in its furnace of catastrophe. "Doctor," he said with a smile, "humanity has been preparing for this moment for 4 billion years. We survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. We outlasted dangerous predators. We built civilizations in deserts and jungles and frozen lands. We split the atom, cured diseases, and reached for the stars. And through it all, we never stopped adapting, never stopped learning, never stopped fighting to survive." He turned back to Dr. Kelvin, his face serious but confident. "So yes, Doctor, we are ready. The galaxy is about to discover that when you invite Death World survivors to join your civilization, you are not just getting another member species. You are getting partners who have been tested by the harshest teacher in the universe, extinction. And we passed that test again and again and again." Sophie stepped forward, adding her voice to Greg's. "We are not asking for special treatment, Doctor. We are not claiming to 6 months had passed since the Xerxes 4 incident. The galaxy had changed in ways both big and small. The most obvious change was in the medical stations throughout Space Alliance territory. Every major facility now had a human medical consultant on staff. Not because humans were better doctors, but because human biology had provided insights that were revolutionizing how all species understood disease and healing. "Commander," Sophie Drake stood in what was now called the Human Biology Research Center on the main Space Alliance station. The facility had grown from Dr. Kelvin's small lab into a massive complex employing scientists from 20 different species. All of them were trying to understand how 4 billion years of survival pressure had shaped the human body. Sophie was no longer just a test subject. She had been promoted and now served as the liaison between the human military and the scientific community. It was a job she had never expected but had come to enjoy. Today, she was giving a tour to a group of young aliens who were considering careers in xenobiology. "This is the immune response simulator," Sophie explained, gesturing to a large machine that hummed softly. "It allows us to model how different species' immune systems respond to various threats. What makes it special is that it was designed by studying human immune responses. Humans taught us that immune systems could be much faster and more adaptive than we thought possible. A young Zephyrian student raised an eye stalk. Commander, is it true that humans can eat food that would poison other species? Sophie smiled. It is true. Humans evolved to eat a very wide variety of foods. Our stomachs produce acids strong enough to melt metal. Our livers can filter toxins that would shut down most biological systems. Our intestines contain billions of bacteria, some of which would be considered deadly pathogens to other species. But to us, they are just part of normal digestion. A crystal student whose body reflected light in rainbow patterns spoke up. Does that mean humans are invincible? Sophie shook her head firmly. Absolutely not. Humans can die just like any other species. We get sick, we get injured, we feel pain. What makes us different is not that we cannot be hurt. It is that we have very good systems for recovering from being hurt. Our bodies are built to take damage and keep functioning long enough to heal. She pulled up a holographic display showing a human skeleton. Look at this. Human bones are incredibly strong for their weight, but they can still break. When they do break, however, the body immediately begins repair. Within weeks, the break is healed. Within months, the bone is often stronger than it was before the break. This is not magic. This is biology shaped by millions of years of surviving injuries that would have killed weaker organisms. Dr. Kelvin entered the room. His three eyes focused on Sophie warmly. Commander Drake, I hope I am not interrupting. I wanted to share some exciting news. Not at all, Doctor. What is the news? We have successfully adapted human antibody production techniques to work with Calvorian crystal biology. 3 Calvorian patients who were suffering from a previously incurable disease are now in complete remission. This is a direct result of studying how human immune systems learn and adapt. The students made excited sounds in their various species ways. Sophie felt a warm feeling in her chest. That is wonderful, Doctor. How many lives do you think this could save? Dr. Kelvin's eye stalks performed a complex motion that Sophie had learned meant he was very pleased. Potentially millions across the galaxy, and this is just the beginning. Every month we discover new applications of human biological principles. Your species' gift to the galaxy is not your toughness itself, but the knowledge of how that toughness was built. Across the station, Captain Gregg was in a very different kind of meeting. He sat in a conference room with Admiral Vorath and several other high-ranking military officers from various species. They were discussing the formation of a new rapid response unit designed to handle extreme environments and biological threats. The proposal is simple, Admiral Vorath explained. We create mixed species teams with humans serving as the core members. When we encounter environments or threats that exceed normal safety parameters, these teams would be our first response, not because humans are expendable, but because they are survivable. A bug-like officer clicked his mandibles skeptically. Admiral, with respect, this sounds like you are asking humans to do the jobs that are too dangerous for everyone else. How is that fair? Gregg spoke up before Vorath could respond. Commander Crix, I appreciate your concern, but consider this. What you see as too dangerous, humans see as just dangerous. We are not being asked to sacrifice ourselves. We are being asked to use our natural advantages to protect others. That is not exploitation. That is cooperation. A bird-like officer from the Theronian species spoke in her musical voice. But Captain, does this not place an unfair burden on humanity? You would be taking on the most dangerous missions simply because you can survive them. Gregg thought carefully before responding. Officer Chirp, let me ask you this. If your ship was sinking and you were the only one who could swim, would you refuse to save others because it was not fair that you had to do the swimming? The Theronian was quiet for a moment. No, I would swim. Exactly. Humans can survive environments that other species cannot. That is not our choice. It is not something we earned or deserve. It is just what we are. The question is, do we use that ability to help others, or do we pretend we do not have it in the name of fairness? Admiral Vorath nodded approvingly. Well said, Captain. And I should add that this program would be entirely voluntary. No human would be forced into dangerous situations. We are simply creating a structure for those who wish to serve in this capacity. Crix's mandibles clicked again, but this time thoughtfully. I see your point. But what about the psychological burden? Humans may be physically tough, but are they prepared for the mental stress of being the ones who always go into danger? Gregg smiled without humor. Commander, humans have been the ones who go into danger for as long as we have existed. Our ancestors faced predators that wanted to eat them. They faced diseases that killed entire communities. They faced natural disasters that destroyed everything they built. And they kept going. The psychological burden you are worried about? We have been carrying it for 4 billion years. It is part of who we are. The meeting continued for another hour, working out details and addressing concerns. By the end, the proposal had been approved with full support from all species present. The Human Rapid Response Initiative would begin training within the month. That evening, Sophie and Greg met at one of the station's observation lounges. They stood side by side, looking out at the stars, each lost in their own thoughts. "It is strange," Sophie said finally. 6 months ago, nobody knew what made humans special. Now the whole galaxy is talking about it. Greg nodded. "Do you regret it? The attention, the responsibility, all of it?" Sophie thought about it carefully. "No, I do not regret it. What I regret is that we did not realize it sooner. We spent 47 years in the Space Alliance thinking we were just like everyone else. Trying to fit in, trying to be normal. But we were never normal. We were always different. We just did not know how to talk about it, and now?" Greg asked. "Now we can be ourselves. We can acknowledge that we are Death World survivors without apologizing for it. We can use our strengths to help others without feeling like we are showing off. We can be human fully and completely, and the galaxy accepts us for it." Dr. Lillian joined them at the window. She was carrying a data pad and looked excited. "Sorry to interrupt, but I had to share this. We just got confirmation from Earth. They are establishing a new field of study called extremophile biology. It will focus on understanding how life adapts to extreme conditions, and they want to use human evolution as the primary case study." Greg raised his eyebrows. "Earth is studying Earth?" Lillian laughed. "In a way, yes. But more accurately, Earth is studying survival. Because that is what humans are experts in. We survived when we should not have. We thrived in conditions that would have killed anything else. And now we are going to teach the galaxy how we did it. Not so they can become human, but so they can understand that life is more adaptable, more resilient, more stubborn than anyone thought possible." A young human ensign approached their group. His name was Kyle, and he had just been accepted into the new Rapid Response Initiative. "Excuse me, Captain, Commander, Doctor, I wanted to thank you all." "Thank us for what?" Sophie asked. Kyle looked out at the stars. "For helping me understand what it means to be human. I grew up on a colony world. Nice climate, no predators, everything safe and comfortable. I always felt like I was soft compared to the aliens around me. Like I did not have anything special to contribute. But now I understand. My body, my biology, my humanity, it is all special. Not better, not superior, just different. And that difference can save lives." Greg smiled and put a hand on the young ensign's shoulder. "You are going to do great things, Kyle. Remember, being human is not about being tough or strong or invincible. It is about refusing to give up. It is about facing impossible situations and finding ways to make them possible. That has nothing to do with where you grew up or how comfortable your life was. It is in your genes, in your cells, and every part of you that descends from 4BB.